pitching matchup, give you our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Craig Stammen. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network, as today the Padres take on the Atlanta Braves in the second game of a 4-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today for the Braves, right-hander Reynaldo Lopez, and for the Padres, right-hander Walker Buehler. Hi, good everybody. Sam Levitt with you from inside our Padres Radio Network studios. First pitch coming up at 4:15 p.m. on the West Coast. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, you'll hear from Padres manager Craig Stammen. You'll also hear from Braves outfielder Mike Yastrzemski. We'll hear from Xander Bogaerts in a little bit, and we'll check in with Padres radio voice Jesse Agler in just a few minutes as well. But first, it's time to set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa Vista and Oceanside, and at FraserFarmsMarket.com. Padres entered today 49-51. They enter the day 2.5 games out of a wild card spot in the National League. Sort of amazingly, the Padres have actually gained a game in the wild card standings despite going 1-3 out of the All-Star break. Braves, meanwhile, come in 58-41, sitting in first place in the National League East, a 3-game lead on the Phillies. Braves have won 4 of their last 5. We had the series opener last night in Atlanta. Let's quickly rewind.
Did you miss what happened in the last Padres game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind on the Padres Radio Network.
We had a 0-0 game yesterday going to the top of the 4th inning. Manny Machado dug in against Bryce Elder.
Elder will deal, and Manny swings, sends it in the air, deep to left center field. Harris racing back at the wall. This one is gone, a home run. Manny Machado clears the yellow line. Little kid in the Acuna jersey caught it. Not Harris, and for Machado, a home run to give the Padres a lead. It's 1-0.
JP Sears was really good to start, began his night with 4 scoreless innings, but in the 5th inning, it was Michael Harris II.
0-1 to Harris. Sears deals, and that's in the air up the right field line. Fernando back towards the corner, looking up, and it's going to go. Home run, Michael Harris II. 18th of the year, and with that one swing of the bat, this game is tied in the bottom of the 5th.
Mauricio Dubon then reached on catcher's interference. He was on first base for Joey Bart.
Here's the pitch, and Bart hits it firmly on the ground and fair up the third baseline. That'll kick off the shorter wall, so Sheets has to run all the way in to come and get it. They're going to wave Dubon. Sheets' throw home is cut by Machado. The run scores, and the Braves have gone ahead. It's 2-1.
So a 2-1 Atlanta lead going to the 6th inning. They would add on courtesy of Ozzie Albies.
1-2 in the air, deep to left field. Sheets is backing up, still going back at the wall. It's going to go into the Padre bullpen in left field. Ozzie Albies with his 2nd hit of the night, and it is his 15th home run of the year. Braves extend the lead. It's 3-1 here in the 6th.
Padres then got a home run from Ty France in the 7th inning to make it a 3-2 game. Padres would put the tying run on third base later in that inning. They did not score. In the 9th inning, Padres had the tying run on first. Victor Medeiros on the mound for Atlanta.
31,000 on their feet as Cronenworth hits a one-hopper to second. Albies has to go in and out of his glove. Flips to second in time. That's a force of Rengifo, and the ball game is over. Padres got the tying run on base in the top of the 9th inning, but that will not be enough as the Braves hold on for a 3-2 win in Game 1 of this 4-game series.
Medeiros was excellent in that game yesterday. Got the final 7 outs of the game. A great job by him. And again, the final score, Braves 3 and the Padres 2. See if the Padres can bounce back in Game 2 of this 4-game series with first pitch coming up in just a little bit. As always, if you want to get involved on our pregame coverage, you can do that in a variety of ways. You can find me on social media at Sammy Lev, SammyLev on X or Instagram. DMs are open. As always, let me know who you are, where you're tuned in from, and if you have a key to today's game, let me know what it is, and I may just read your key to the game live here on the air. Let's go to the ATL.
Let's take a trip up to the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup with Jesse Agler in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Well, Jesse, I want to start today's conversation by talking about Ty France. In the midst of an 8-game hit streak, 5 home runs in 6 games for the very first time in his career. Jesse, you saw Ty France come up with the Padres a number of years ago. This has been quite a reunion. Let's start on a very positive note. Ty France continues to be one of the real good stories in 2026 for this ball club.
The 2019 Pacific Coast League most valuable player is in El Paso, Chihuahua. Yeah, I mean, look, anytime, you draft a guy and you kind of see him come up and then he has success and you see him get traded away, it's a bummer, right? We all love homegrown guys, certainly understand the move that was made in 2020. But to see him, return was neat this spring. Really didn't know what to expect, back at the beginning of spring training with Ty. But he put his head down. He got right to work. He knew, I think, right away in spring training that nothing was promised to him. In fact, I would say it was fairly obvious at the beginning of spring training that even making the opening day roster was something of a long shot. I think Ty probably knew that the odds were that he was going to, begin the season in AAA and be, an organizational depth guy. But, a guy that if he kept his head down and worked hard would at some point get the chance to come up to the major league team. But the way things kind of shook out during spring training and the way he performed and the way other guys kind of fell into place, he got the chance to be on the roster right out of the chute. Playing time a little bit sporadic at the beginning of the season, but again, kept his head down, just kind of kept at it, had the right attitude. And now here we are, sitting in late July. He's going to play his 75th game of the year tonight. And as you said, he's been one of the most consistent offensive performers on this team. And now he's done something that you noted with the home runs that he's never done before in his career. So just a wonderful, wonderful story here this season.
Jesse, focusing more on today's game, Walker Buehler on the mound for the Padres will make his first start out of the All-Star break. I don't know, speaking of spring training and things you didn't expect, I don't know that I would have said back in February and March that Walker Buehler returning to form would be at the top of my priority list for the Padres moving forward, but it really does seem that way. He's incredibly important to this team, and him bouncing back a little bit starting today, it seems like a pretty important point on the checklist for the Padres moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, look, with the state of the rotation, and I think anybody who's followed this team this year understands, where that's at. They need as much from all of these guys as they can possibly get. And Walker's got a ceiling as high as any of them, right? And I think that's kind of the point of the whole thing is that, we know that Walker Buehler is a guy, even this sort of Buehler 2.0 that he is, he's a guy that is capable of giving you 6 innings, with some consistency if he's able to sort of find himself and be the right version of himself. That was not the version that we saw, the 3 starts at the beginning of this month. I will say, I think Walker was gassed. I think, he was pitching, with great regularity this season in a way that was unusual for him. Really, the mental grind, the physical grind of being a different kind of pitcher, also pitching very regularly on 4 days rest, quote unquote, regular rest. And if you look at the numbers, and I've got them here, the 7 starts that he's made this year on 4 days rest, the ERA is almost 7. When he's gone on longer rest than that, the ERA is about 4.5. So maybe a little bit overly simplistic there, but, I do think that by the time the calendar turned to July, he needed a break. And you know what? He got a break because he's starting today for the first time in like a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. So hopefully this is a well-rested Walker Buehler that takes the mound tonight in Atlanta. It's certainly warm today, but it's not like oppressively crazy hot or anything like that. I say almost comfortable down on the field when we were there for batting practice a little while ago. So, optimistic that, Walker can kind of continue to figure some things out. But it's been a mental and a physical grind for him this year. And as you said, there's no doubt, if the Padres are going to go, the direction they want to go, he's going to have to be one of the guys to lead the way.
Jesse, just to quickly touch on Reynaldo Lopez, the starter today for Atlanta. He was so good in 2024. He had a sub-2 ERA in 26 outings, was an all-star in the National League in 2024, made one start last year, had surgery, was shut down for the rest of the season, but then comes back this year and is struggling a little bit. They're trying to figure things out with him, goes to the bullpen. It seems, though, like he's starting to regain his form once he's been put back in the rotation. Your thoughts on Reynaldo Lopez, who the Braves will start tonight?
Yeah, pretty solid in the 4 starts since coming back. I mean, look, their rotation, kind of like the Padres, has been in shambles. And, outside of Chris Sale, they've been putting it together with Scotch tape and, super glue or whatever else they can find, kind of laying around here at Truist Park. But he's done a nice job. He's been able to go out, give them 5 innings, keep them in the game. And as, you, me, Tony, whoever else has talked about thousands of times in the last couple of months, sort of, when you're in this position, that's what you're looking for, right? You're not asking guys to go 7-8 innings, and throw shutout baseball. It's like, give me 5, keep me in the game. That's sort of the assignment at the back end of the rotation. And that's what Lopez has done in the 4 starts since he's come back for the most part. And look, that's with the Braves offense, and the way they hit home runs in particular, that gives them a pretty good opportunity to win this game. The other thing, of course, when you're talking about the Braves situation as opposed to the Padres situation is they've got a cushion. They're 17 games above 500. And while the Phillies, have spent much of the last couple of months breathing down their necks in the National League East, they're heading towards the playoffs, kind of like a consistent locomotive, if you will, while the Padres are, trying to scratch their way back up the wild card standing. So, they probably feel a little bit more comfortable with the situation that they've got than the Padres do. They're looking for pitching help, as I'm sure the Padres are, but they're doing so within a very different context.
Yeah, and when they're healthy and those bats are really cooking, that's a Braves offense. It's pretty dangerous. We saw some of that yesterday with the home runs and the extra base hits. Jesse, appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you and Tony coming up a little bit later as we get ready for Game 2 of this 4-game series. Thanks so much.
You got it, Tim.
All right, that is Jesse Agler joining us on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network. First pitch is coming up at 4:15 p.m. on the West Coast. When we come back, we'll hear from Padres manager Craig Stammen. Padres made an interesting move today with their lineup. We'll tell you more about that when we return on our pregame coverage right here on the Padres Radio Network.
You're listening to the Eco.
Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our Padres Radio Network studios as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 4:15 here on the West Coast. Game 2 of this 4-game series between the Padres and the Atlanta Braves. We'll hear from Craig Stammen in just a moment. First, let's take a look at the Padres lineup. In this one, it looks like this, a little bit different here today. Fernando Tatis Jr. in right field leading off. Jake Cronenworth at second base batting second. Manny Machado at third base batting third. Ty France at first base batting cleanup. Jackson Merrill in center field batting fifth. Luis Camposano doing the catching and batting sixth. Gavin Sheets in left field batting seventh. Xander Bogaerts all the way down to the number 8 spot, the shortstop. In that 8 spot today, and Luis Rengifo getting the start today, DHing and batting ninth. Obviously, anytime you see a guy like Xander, who, as late as yesterday was hitting sixth, but then you look at where he was hitting over the weekend. At one point, he was hitting third. Kind of very, very rare to see Xander that far down in the lineup. It's obviously been a tough stretch for Xander Bogaerts, especially the last couple of months or so. Here was Xander earlier today inside the Padres clubhouse when he was asked about the move down to the 8th spot in the order and what he needs to do moving forward.
Just play better, simple as that. Don't need much other words for that, just play better and try to contribute,
All right, simple enough. Play better. We'll see if Xander Bogaerts can get it going out of that 8th spot in the lineup here today. With first pitch coming up at 4:15, let's go to Atlanta. Hear from Padre manager Craig Stammen.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres skipper Craig Stammen. Served up by Sinley Food. If you've had better chicken, you must be a rooster.
Yeah, walk around the hill today. How much do you think that the extra time off might help him?
I think it'll help him a lot. I think anytime you get a little bit of a breather, you're able to collect yourself, kind of take a day to reevaluate where you need to get a little bit better, and then let your body heal up a little bit and then get back after it. So I think he's had ample time to do that. I'm expecting a good start from Walker today.
It seemed like the stuff was still there, just maybe the command was faltering. I mean, it's sort of a classic sign of fatigue, isn't it?
Yeah. Usually, you can see fatigue in many different ways. One is velocity, which is easy to tell because it's on the scoreboard every time. And the other part of it is a little bit of command and just not being as sharp as what you have been previously. And I think they all come and go throughout different times of the year. And the All-Star break came in a good time, in my opinion, for Walker.
Can you talk about your lineup a little bit? There's some interesting changes. You got Cron back up top. Xander's moving down a little bit. Rengifo gets some playing time like you mentioned yesterday. What can you tell us about all the moves?
Yeah, just trying to shake it up a little bit. Take a little bit of pressure off Bogey is probably the biggest thing. We got to get him going somehow. Thought moving him up in the lineup might get him going. He's still taking good at bats. He's still getting walks and stuff, but I think put him down a little bit lower. Hopefully that takes a little bit of the pressure off him, lets him just go play baseball and, get back after it again. And then just kind of shuffling the lefties around, see where the best place to put those lefties are going forward and, how we can match up against right-handed starters.
How impressive has Rengifo been in the opportunities he's gotten so far?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the last 2 games that he's played, he just, opened our eyes a little bit to, all right, maybe this guy needs a little bit more playing time and dynamic, switch hitter. Can hit from both sides of the plate. He really can handle lefties well, hitting right-handed. So, we'll see what he's got and, go from there. But trying to play hot hands. We've got to, we're in the situation where we're behind in the standings and we've got to figure out a way to make up ground. And it's tough to have hot players sitting on the bench, type of thing. And if he's swinging it well, we got to get him in there.
What do you make of Jackson having these amazing games and then this abundance of not amazing games?
Yeah, it's just a little bit of inconsistency and part of him searching a little bit about who he is, I think, right now. And, does he really trust his talent, that we've seen over the last couple of years is, really the first time he struggled in the major leagues. And there's always doubt that comes with that. Every player has gone through those moments of oh man, am I really cut out for this? And you just he's digging deep right now to find those moments. He sees them in spurts. He's just not seeing it over a consistent time period. And I think, eventually that is coming throughout the season. He's a tough human being, competitive person. He's as good a makeup kid as we have. And eventually those guys always tend to figure it out.
Probably ideally you don't envision Xander hitting 8. So what is it going to take for him to kind of get to what you envision him as, get to what you envision as a hitter? He hasn't been that guy for the last almost 3 months now.
Yeah, I think it's just like, I think he's pressing a little bit, worried about, how it's not going. I think like same thing with Jackson. You just get in these modes as a player where the rest of the world views you in one way and you view yourself internally in a different way. And it's tough to get out of that mode and believe in yourself. And, what comes first? Does confidence come first and then success, or success come first and then confidence? And we're like, every player is battling that right now. Me as a manager, the only thing I can do is try to move him around and show him the confidence that I have in him. I think moving him up to the 3-hole was probably that type of thing. And, also the 3-hole puts a lot of pressure on someone too to come through in big moments. And he came through as many, a few times, but I think him being down a little bit lower takes a little bit of pressure off. He can work on a swing, get him back to who he is, and then eventually we'll have the Xander Bogaerts that we all, knew we were going to get when we signed him.
What's your understanding of why it's been such a short to go the opposite way this year?
Yeah, I think from what he's kind of said, it's a little bit of his swing. Like his intent is to go there, and then he's like, man, I just do it, and then something else happens. It's like there's like a missing link between my swing and my brain, and he's just kind of caught in that, trying to find that feeling to get it back. We've seen a few more like fly balls are right, pop-ups are right, not balls, a couple ground balls to right field that we've seen driven, which is like a sign of it getting a little bit closer, but not up to the standards that Xander knows that he's capable of.
I know you talked yesterday about there being like a lot of season after the trade deadline, and obviously right now like a lot of focus is on that trade deadline. One of the paths, potential paths, could be like standing pat,
right?
So what do you make of like if that is a path that is choosing? What do you make of this group and what it can accomplish given its health?
Yeah, this is a team that we've believed in all year. So if we stand pat or whatever you'd say, like believe in this team and go forward with it, we've got 60 games to prove ourselves that we're the team that we thought we were at the beginning of the season, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think if anything, it's like, yeah, we believe in this team. I believe in this team. I know that what we're capable of. We're so close. Like right now, it seems like every loss makes us feel so far away, but we're really not that far away. We get on a little bit of a hot streak. It's going to be, we're going to be in good shape.
I know AJ kind of in the past he's kind of taken the ask managers kind of their input and whatnot ahead of that. Like, is that kind of your message or thought that this group isn't that far away?
Yeah, he and I talk every day about the team, the roster, or hitting or pitching or fielding, and how we can improve it in any, which way, whether that's through coaching. And then eventually, as the trade deadline gets closer, it's like, all right, what would we need to make this team a little bit better? Who are the guys that are coming off the IL that could help us? And then who are some other players that could supplement this team? For me as the manager, it's hard to talk about like getting rid of somebody and adding someone else. It's like the guys that we have here, I think, are fully capable of going on a hot streak and winning us a bunch of games and taking us through the playoffs. AJ, that's his decision, the front office decision, to see where we can get better and how those pieces, get moved around.
That was Padres manager Craig Stammen earlier today inside the Padres dugout in Atlanta. We'll hear more from Craig on our post-game coverage coming up later on this evening. Sam Levitt back with you inside our Padres Radio Network studios as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 4:15. Let's tell you who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to step up their game? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not. Presented by ASAP Drain Guys and Plumbing, a division of Anderson Commercial, your full-service plumber serving San Diego County.
Well, no doubt in the hot category right now, Ty France in the midst of an 8-game hitting streak, hitting .464 with 5 home runs, 10 RBIs in that span. France has an extra base hit in 4 consecutive games, 3 home runs in his last 2 games. How about this? 5 home runs in 6 games for the first time in his career. In the not category, unfortunately, we focus on Gavin Sheets, who is really struggling right now. He is 1 for his last 28. Gavin back in the Padres lineup here today. We'll see if Gavin can get it going out of the number 7 spot playing left field. And that's a quick look at who's hot, who's not as we get ready for game 2 of this 4-game series coming up in Atlanta. Let's take a look at some major league headlines as we go around the horn.
Let's examine the most important news and the latest information you need to know in the world of Major League Baseball. Sam Levitt takes you around the horn. Presented by Valley View Casino and Hotel. Get ready for Major League winning when you join Valley View Casino and Hotel's Players Club and receive over $200 in free instant offers. Visit valleyviewcasino.com to learn more today.
Now, some storylines from around the major leagues entering today. The Red Sox, the red hot Red Sox, they look to match a franchise record with a 15th consecutive win today. That would equal the mark set all the way back in 1946. The Red Sox, nobody was thinking about them. A couple of weeks ago, they have now won 14 in a row. Salvador Perez, his next home run will tie Hall of Famer George Brett for the franchise record of the Kansas City Royals at 317. Perez has 2 home runs in his last 3 games. Brewers looking to match their season best win streak with a 5th straight win here today. The Marlins, who had played so well for a long time, they've scored only 18 runs during a season worst 7-game losing streak. Remember, the Padres go to Miami this weekend. And then finally, how about this? Esmeralyn Valdez of the Pirates has an extra base hit and an RBI in 8 consecutive games. Only Paul Wainer has a longer streak in Pirates club history. So he's been a very good young player for the Pirates. And that's a quick look at some of the headlines from around the major leagues. We'll have a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard coming your way in just a little bit. When we come back, we'll hear from Braves DH today, Mike Yastrzemski, about his career and, of course, his very famous grandfather. Speaking of the Red Sox, Carl Yastrzemski. We also have our keys to today's game and much more. First pitch coming up at 4:15 here on the West Coast from Atlanta on the Padres Radio Network.
Hey, friends.
EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our Padres Radio Network studios. First pitch is coming up at 4:15 p.m. here on the West Coast as the Padres play the Atlanta Braves at Truist Park in Atlanta. Game 2 of this 4-game series and the 5th game of this 10-game road trip. EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925. Visit EcoWaterSoCal.com or call 760-350-3338. That's 760-350-3338. Let's get to today's injury news.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit them up 24/7 at BadaFulkerson.com.
Well, let's begin with the piece of news impacting today's game most pertinently. That is Mike Yastrzemski being activated off the IL for Atlanta. He had been dealing with elbow inflammation. He was hitting the ball well before going on the IL, 9 for 30 in 11 games before going on the IL with 9 RBIs in that span. Yastrzemski is DHing today for the Braves. As far as the Padres, well, Miguel Andujar going on the IL yesterday with that right wrist fracture. Rodolfo Duran recalled from AAA to replace him. As far as updates on some of the guys on the IL, well, there is some good news. Jeremiah Estrada is scheduled to pitch for AAA El Paso this week. Joe Musgrove and Nick Pivetta both expected to face hitters for the first time this week in Arizona. So some good news on those fronts. And as we get updates on Joe and Nick and Jeremiah and everybody else, will continue to pass them along. But again, as far as today's game, Mike Yastrzemski is off the IL and in today's Braves lineup. Let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, tell you what's going on around the majors on this Tuesday.
Let's take a trip around the bigs to highlight the scores that matter most with our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Premium Beef Patties. Always a hit for grilling.
We have one game and one game only going on right now. Twins ahead of the Guardians 1-0 in the first inning in Cleveland. We have a rain delay before first pitch in Philadelphia between the Dodgers and the Phillies. Everything else is coming up a little bit later. Rays and the Blue Jays later on. Mets in Milwaukee against the Brewers. Giants against the Royals in Kansas City. White Sox in Texas against the Rangers. The Tigers at Wrigley Field in Chicago against the Cubs. Marlins in Houston against the Astros. Nationals and the Rockies in Colorado. Cardinals and the Angels in Anaheim. A's and the Diamondbacks in Arizona. Reds go to Seattle to visit the Mariners. And we did have a couple of rainouts already today. A lot of rain on the East Coast today. Pirates and the Yankees in New York. They were rained out. They'll make that up tomorrow as part of a doubleheader, and the Orioles and Red Sox rained out at Fenway. They will also make that game up tomorrow as part of a twin billing. And that is a quick full look at the out-of-town scoreboard. We'll have much more on all those games coming up a little bit later in our post-game coverage. Well, Mike Yastrzemski, obviously a longtime San Francisco Giant. He's played a pretty significant role on this Braves team in 2026. And, of course, Mike Yastrzemski, famously the grandson of Red Sox Hall of Famer Carl Yastrzemski. I talked with Mike Yastrzemski before today's game. Sam Levitt here on the Padres Radio Network as we get ready for today's game against the Atlanta Braves. And right now we're joined by the Braves' Mike Yastrzemski. Mike, what stood out to you about this club? It's a similar group of guys that's been here. What stands out to you about the Atlanta Braves?
Just that production comes from everywhere. You know, we've got a really deep lineup. We've got a ton of different guys that are contributing. Our pitchers have been lights out. You know, it's been all the success has been coming from all around. So it feels like it's just a very depthy group.
Mike, when you look at your career, you spent a lot of time with the Giants, came up with the Giants where you made your major league debut, had a big impact in San Francisco. Then last year have to transition a little bit. You show up to Atlanta. What's the process been like for you? I suppose sort of finding that next chapter of your career.
Yeah, just trying to just blend in, honestly, you know, be part of the team and, you know, help in any way possible, whether it be on the bases, out in the field, or at the plate, whatever is kind of clicking that day. And, you know, just trying to keep the vibes high and positive in this clubhouse.
Mike, when I look at your career, you were not an overnight success story. You spent a lot of time in the minor leagues. You grinded your way to the major leagues and becoming a real good major league player. When you reflect on your journey to this point through the minors, through getting drafted, how do you sum up kind of what it took for you to get to this point?
Man, kind of like you said, just a lot of hard work and a lot of belief, you know, just sticking with it. And there were a lot of ups, a lot of downs, and, you know, just keeping that positive mentality throughout it all, you know, knowing that something good is going to come from learning from all the struggles. I think that's something that guys, you know, can really benefit from, especially when you spend enough time in the minor leagues, is if you struggle, you got to learn from it versus, you know, being defeated by it. So learning how to handle that and how to compose yourself and how to maintain, you know, whatever it is that's going to keep you going.
You were drafted out of Vanderbilt. I was actually just talking earlier today with Walker Buehler, also a Vanderbilt guy. What was special about playing at Vandy and what that program does?
I think it just teaches you how to be a man, first of all. You know, it teaches you that you've got to work for what you earn. You've got to, you know, you've got to learn to be a good person, to be a good teammate, how to survive in life versus just on the baseball field. And so I think that's part of what kept me going was the mental fortitude that I was, you know, blessed to learn from Coach Corbin and all the staff at Vandy and all of my experiences there.
We're joined by the Braves' Mike Yastrzemski here on the Padres Radio Network before today's game. Mike, I know I'm not the first person to ask you about this. At what point of your life did you sort of realize who your grandpa was?
When I was young, you know, probably when I was like 8 or 9, and people would always ask me how my grandfather was doing and how I was really confused by it for a while, you know, because I wasn't asking people how their grandparents were and, unless there was something abruptly going on. But yeah, it was pretty early. And then I guess I really didn't understand like the magnitude of his career until I was probably, I think it was when I was 23, and I thought about my entire life. He had shown up to a major league clubhouse that entire length of time. And that kind of stopped me in my tracks and made me realize how impressive that is for sure.
How would you describe the impact he's had on your baseball career?
Yeah, it's been huge. You know, I've had a lot of time and a lot of conversations with him, a lot of learning. And, but the most important thing that I felt like he allowed me to do is have my own career and, you know, whatever path I was headed down, you know, he was going to be supportive of, whether it was, you know, if I was going to be a career minor leaguer, like he was proud of that. If I was only going to play in college, he was proud of that. So there were cool things that happened along the way that really alleviated a lot of the pressures that could have come with, you know, having such a historic family member play baseball.
Mike, before I let you go, I want to ask you about one of your teammates, Matt Olson, because I think it's pretty remarkable. You just don't see guys play as consistently as Matt has over the course of the last handful of years. Being his teammate, being up close to it, what stands out about Matt Olson? Not just the performance, the numbers are great, but the consistency in just posting every day the way he does.
Yeah, he really is the same guy every day. And you know, I know people like to say that about guys a lot, and that term probably gets overused, but he shows up the exact same way every single day. His routine is the same. He is so dialed into what he's doing and what he's trying to accomplish. And he's got a great baseball mind. You know, he's a very smart hitter. He's a thinker, but he doesn't overthink, and it's been really, really fun to work with him.
Mike, great conversation, and we'll talk to you again down the road. Thanks so much.
Sounds good. Thanks.
How will the Padres unlock a win today? These are the keys to the game. Presented by Rock and Block Turf and Hardscapes. Beautiful artificial turf that stays green all year long. Trust and experience. The job isn't done until it's done right. See them at rockandblocklandscape.com.
Key number one to today's game against the Atlanta Braves. Do it again against the Braves offense. Even though the Padres lost last night, they did a good job against Atlanta's offense. The Braves had just 3 runs on 4 hits. Now, the Braves have won 4 of their last 5. They've scored 36 runs in that span. That's more than 7 runs per game. They're hitting .303 with 11 home runs in that span. Michael Harris, the second, is hitting .338 with 4 home runs, 15 RBIs in his last 14 games. Harris, the second, in 4 games since the All-Star break, 7 for 18 with a couple of home runs and 6 RBIs, including a home run yesterday. So whether it's against Harris or this Atlanta lineup, hey, you know what? 3 runs given up to this Braves lineup, not too shabby. We'll see if the Padres can do something like that again here today. Key number 2, more Manny. Manny Machado had 2 hits yesterday, his 20th home run of the season. And how about this? His first bunt single since 2017. Manny is 10 for 28. That's a .345 batting average with 2 home runs, 6 RBIs in his last 8 games. So we'll see if Manny can continue to swing the bat pretty well here today. And that's a quick look at our keys to today's game. When we come back, we'll take a deeper look at today's starting pitching matchup. Walker Buehler on the mound for San Diego, Reynaldo Lopez on the mound for Atlanta. Much, much more to do as we walk you up towards first pitch coming up at 4:15 p.m. here on the West Coast on the Padres Radio Network.
We'll be right back to
Padres baseball coming up here on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. First pitch coming your way at 4:15 p.m. We send things out to Jesse and Tony in under 6 minutes as the Padres play game 2 of this 4-game series in Atlanta. Let's tell you what to watch for.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For, presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovements.com.
What to watch for today in Atlanta? How about Luis Rengifo getting a start as the designated hitter, batting ninth today? Rengifo has been really good since the All-Star break. He's 5 for 7, 3 runs scored. He's also walked. So Luis Rengifo, quite simply, earning his way into the lineup today, DHing. We'll see what kind of impact Luis Rengifo can have offensively in this one. Let's preview today's starting pitching matchup between Walker Buehler and Reynaldo Lopez.
Let's break down how today's starters are shaping up with our starting pitching preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Right-hander Reynaldo Lopez on the mound for the Braves today. 32 years old. He's 4-2 with a 3.50 ERA in 22 outings, 9 starts so far this season. Lopez began the year in the Atlanta rotation. He struggled a bit, had some mechanical flaws in his delivery. He was hurt most of 2025, made 1 start. So Braves decided to move him to the bullpen. He pitched out of the bullpen for a little bit, worked some different things out. He's been good, though, since rejoining the rotation in late June, a 3.50 ERA in 4 starts since rejoining that Atlanta rotation. Meanwhile, on the mound for the Padres, right-hander Walker Buehler. Buehler making his first start of the second half of the season. Buehler had been so good from mid-May through June, but he had a rough start to this month of July. He allowed 20 runs across 11 innings in 3 starts in July. Before the break, we'll see if Buehler can bounce back today. He's 0-2 with a 4.86 ERA in his last 3 starts against Atlanta. One matchup to watch for Buehler today, Austin Riley, who he said yesterday has been swinging the bat really well lately, 7 for 18 with 2 extra base hits lifetime against Walker Buehler. So keep an eye on that matchup here today. And that's a look at our starting pitching matchup. Reynaldo Lopez on the mound for Atlanta, Walker Buehler on the mound for San Diego. Well, let's set the table one more time for you as we get ready for this one. Padres come in 49-51. The Braves are at 58-41. Braves sitting in first place in the National League East, a 3-game lead on Philadelphia. Braves have won 4 of their last 5 games. Padres, again, this is sort of an amazing part of the last few days. Padres are 1-3 out of the All-Star break. So far in this road trip, it's not gone great, but they amazingly have actually gained a game in the wild card standings during that span. The Padres entering today 2.5 games out of a wild card spot in the National League. So although the Padres have not played great, although the trade deadline is looming, now the Padres still very much in the mix in that National League wild card race. Can they bounce back with a win here today in Game 2 of this 4-game series in Atlanta? We're going to find out. When we come back, we send things out to Truist Park in Atlanta. We hear from Jesse Agler and Tony Gwynn Jr. They'll have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our post-game coverage. You're listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan, and the Padres Radio Network.
Transform your home with custom interiors.